Welcome back, family, as we continue our study in the Gospel of Matthew. We're now looking at Matthew chapter 21. We have finished 20 chapters of the Gospel of Matthew, and there's 28 chapters in the whole Gospel. And so we are more closer to the end than we were in the beginning. So now we're kind of getting into, I guess we say, the nitty gritty of the Gospel of Matthew. And as part of this, we're going now into chapter 21, and there's some things we should have in mind as we're looking at chapter 21. Again, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Sister Isha Shama, and all as we're continuing our study here in the Gospel of Matthew as the Messiah is confirming the covenant with the children of Israel. Welcome back, family. So we're now going into chapter 21 of Matthew. And so this is where the Messiah enters Jerusalem, and he is known and he is seen, and they declare him a prophet from Galilee. But there are those, of course, that know as he's entering into the city, this is the Messiah. And it's interesting how he enters into the city. And of course, that says a lot about Israel, about the condition of Israel, and about, of course, the prophecies of what was going to happen. Again, this is confirming the covenant with Israel. In fact, probably when I get ready to make this series, I put the series, it's called the 2024 Matthew series, but I should have it as confirming the covenant with Israel. But I don't know, because all of the Gospels is confirming the covenant with Israel, but this is Matthew's gospel. So let's look at chapter 21, and let's go from verse 1. Let's see, Matthew chapter 21. Let's go from verse 1 down to verse 11. Matthew chapter 21, from verse 1 through 11. Matthew 21, from verse 1 through 11. And when they drew nigh unto Jerusalem, and were come to Bethpage, unto the Mount of Olives, then sent Yahushua 2 disciples, saying unto them, Go into the village over against you, and straightway ye shall find an ass tied, and a colt with her. Loose them, and bring them unto me. And if any man say aught unto you, say ye shall say, Yahweh hath need of them, and straightway he will send them. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, Tell ye the daughter of Zion, behold, thy king cometh unto thee meek, and sitting upon an ass, and a colt, the foal of an ass. And the disciples went and did as Yahushua commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him thereon. And a very great multitude spread their garments in the way. Others cut down branches from the trees and strawed them in the way. And the multitudes that went before and followed cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahweh. Hosanna to the highest. And when he was come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, Who is this? And the multitude said, This is Yahushua, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee. So a multitude was with him. Okay, now you can imagine, of course, every place we have read in Matthew, people were following him. Okay, a lot of people were following, people that were his disciples. Aside from the 12, there were also people he had healed, people he had helped that were following him. And so they were all following him and bearing witness as to who he was. And notice they described him. This is the prophet from Nazareth of Galilee. Okay. Now, the way in which he came in was described in the prophecy of Zechariah. When they're mentioning, of course, a prophecy being fulfilled, let's take a look at Zechariah. And let's go to Zechariah, because that's where this prophecy exists. in Zechariah, let's see. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, give me a chance here to catch up and stop being like mustard and catch up. Let me get a chance to catch up here. I'm just looking for I know it's from Zechariah. I just need to find it. This happens to me often, but I will find it. This is Zechariah chapter 9. Zechariah chapter 9. Okay, there it is. Okay. Zechariah chapter 9. All right. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 9. Let's see, where should I begin reading here? It's 9:9, the exact prophecy, but of course we want to get context here. Let's see. It's hard. It's hard. All right, I'm going to begin at verse 9 then. At Zechariah chapter 9, I'm going to begin at verse 9. In fact, that's all I'm going to read. This is Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9. Yeah, let's start with that. Zechariah chapter 9 and verse 9. This is the prophecy that is fulfilled in Matthew chapter 21 in the way the Messiah was entering into Jerusalem. So let's begin here. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, upon a colt, the foal of an ass. I would say, and I don't think I'd be crazy or far off, that if a king was going to arrive, he would not arrive like that. That if a king was going to arrive in the city of the Most High's chosen people, that he would arrive with much greater pomp, right? That he would arrive with much greater fanfare than that. So there's a reason that the Father decided, no, this is how the king, notice it said, thy king cometh. This is the eventual king of the earth, Messiah. And he comes riding on a donkey. Right. So it's obvious, it is quite obvious and evident that the Father chose to have his son arrive in Jerusalem humble, in a humility way, not with what you would expect of royalty, right? Well, I mean, what we're talking about when you're talking about a king, you're obviously talking about royalty, and not just any royalty. This is the son of the Creator, and he's coming humble. That's a lot. Now, let's look at another witness to this type of thing in Isaiah chapter 53, very well-known witness. Isaiah chapter 53. Isaiah 53, I'm going to begin verse 1. Isaiah 53, verse 1. And let's go from verse 1 down to verse 7. Isaiah 53, 1 through 7. Okay? Isaiah 53, 1 through 7. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Yahweh revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Yahweh, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way. Yahweh hath laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. So he was brought in as a humble servant to be afflicted, to be betrayed, and to be put to death by the Gentiles. Okay? Why? Well, Isaiah says it here, all we like sheep have gone astray. Now, let's look at this. Now, in fact, let's go to another witness for this portion of it. We're talking about humility and why the Messiah had to come so humble. What was that all about? Well, let's look at Daniel, back to what we're always talking about. Daniel chapter 9, where he's talking about confirming the covenant, right? So in Daniel 9, as Daniel is being spoken to by the angel Gabriel, and that's what's happening here. The angel Gabriel is speaking to Daniel in Daniel chapter 9, and he's come to answer Daniel about the vision of the 2,300 days of Daniel 8. Daniel didn't understand that, and he was told, shut it up. You're not going to know it now. It shall be after many days. So here comes Gabriel, and he's coming. The Bible says in Daniel chapter 9, he says in verse 23, Gabriel is talking to Daniel. Gabriel came. In fact, let's take a look at it. Let's start at chapter 9, verse 20. Let's start at chapter 9, verse 20. And whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before Yahweh my Most High for the holy mountain of my Most High, yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding about the 2,300 days of Daniel 8. And that's why he says in verse 23, at the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. The matter and consider the vision. What is the matter? What is the issue? Our people had gone away from Father Yah. We started, and you can see the result of it when you get to the New Testament. When you get to the New Testament, you will see there's two high priests, there's a Sanhedrin, there's an Edomite that's a king, and there's four kings that's ruling over Judah. None of them are Hebrews. And why? Because our people had went from the Most High, and we had become arrogant, thinking we're entitled because we are the seed of Abraham. At the same time, the leaders had sold us out for money. This should all sound familiar. The leaders have sold us out for money. And the religion and the belief system given to us by Moses had been completely changed. And we were now in a man-made system, and we didn't even realize it. And as we talked about in the last section, in chapter 20, the Messiah's aim and goal was to redeem and transform the characters of the people who would make up the kingdom. particularly the character of the chosen people, Israel. Peter says, judgment begins at the house of Yah. Now let's continue. So Gabriel is there to explain this 2300 year period, because if you recall in chapter 8 of Daniel, he says, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And we know the cleansing of the sanctuary has to do with the Day of Atonement. And the Day of Atonement has to do with what? Taking sin off of Israel and sealing Israel in righteousness. So he's telling, Gabriel at that time is telling Daniel, there's going to be 2,300 years until the sanctuary is cleansed. And of course, we're not talking about an earthly sanctuary, because at that time it didn't even exist. It was destroyed. So we're talking about the sanctuary of the original, which is in the New Jerusalem, in the third heaven. And he's saying the sanctuary will be cleansed after 2+ millennia, 2 millennium and 3 centuries. Then the sanctuary will be cleansed. And then you said the time is long. He was not expecting that. The time is long. And then the angel says at the end of chapter 8, the vision of the evening and the morning, that is days, the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. Daniel didn't get it. Then came Gabriel. He said, understand the matter and consider the vision. And so now in Daniel 9, he begins, we just finished reading 9:23. Let's go to 9:24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, he tells Daniel, and upon thy holy city, that is Jerusalem, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. 70 weeks are determined. Of course, the word determined in Hebrew means separated, divided off, set apart. From what? 2,300 years. 70 weeks are set apart for you to get this done, for your people, Daniel, to get this done. Okay. Now, Daniel was praying in the beginning of chapter 9. He's praying because he's concerned not only about what we just talked about, but he's concerned with the 70-year prophecy that was given through Jeremiah, that Babylon would be in power for 70 years. And then that the Israelites would be brought back to their land, and that the city would be reestablished. So he's concerned about that. But Gabriel is not only going to give him that, Gabriel is going to give him a more far-reaching vision and prophecy understanding. So he's going to give him the 70-year thing that Daniel was concerned about, because Daniel was worried the time was up and they ain't moved nowhere. So Daniel was concerned. But Gabriel is going to give him something more far-reaching, 2,300 years. And he's saying 470 weeks or 490 years is for your people, Daniel, in your holy city. Okay? So then verse 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times, which we see in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. That is the restoration of the city and of the sanctuary. That is what the books of Ezra and Nehemiah are all about. The rebuilding of the wall, which is the city, the rebuilding of the sanctuary, which is the temple, right? That was the second temple. Okay, they were rebuilding, starting with Ezra and Nehemiah. And of course, also we know that in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, the king, the Persian king, says, those of you, the Most High has given me this kingdom, and those of you that are of mine, go back in Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. 2 Kings 36. Then, of course, we know that people like Zechariah, people like Haggai, the prophet, they were there at that time with Ezra and Nehemiah, leading the effort to bring this to pass. So Daniel is being told about all this before it happens, obviously, because that's why it's called prophecy. So he's being told about all this before it happens. Okay, now he said the street shall be built again. If you worry about the 70 years, the street's going to be built again and the wall, even in troublous times. But I'm telling you, Daniel, Messiah is going to be back in this 490-year period. Messiah is going to come here. Okay, so it's much more. He's telling Daniel, yeah, you're going to get to rebuild the city. The wall and the temple are going to be rebuilt, but something bigger is coming. Messiah is going to come. Okay, now, verse 26. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. So now he's giving him what Daniel would, bad news. Messiah is going to be cut off, but not for himself. It's for us, right? And the people of the prince that shall come, Rome, shall destroy the city. That's your second temple. Destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So now, this prophecy is letting Daniel know, you're going to rebuild your temple. You're going to have a second temple. You're going to rebuild the ruins of Jerusalem. The wall's going to be rebuilt. The city's going to be rebuilt. And Messiah is going to come. He's going to be cut off. And in your temple and your city is going to be destroyed. So now, why? Again, our people was not humble. They have not repented of their sin. When they rebuilt the temple the second time, they were. When you read Ezra and Nehemiah, and y'all have read it, what will you see? You see the people repenting. They're forgiving debt. They're restoring land back to people they bamboozled. They bamboozled their own brothers and sisters. They're coming back and they're humble. And you got older folks there, and it was raining, and they gave a dedication to the foundation of the temple. And people were rejoicing, and others were wailing and crying because they had seen the first temple and realized that how bad they messed up. So that temple was gone forever. And this second one wasn't going to be anything like it. That was the situation when they were rebuilding the second temple. And now Daniel is being told, after they go through all that, that one's going to be destroyed too. So now with that in mind, the Messiah is trying to change the character of Israel so that they can be cleansed. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. He's trying to come as a sacrifice for sin so that the character of Israel will be changed. They will have then, when you have the kingdom that's about to be established in our lifetime, you will have a group of people that will be trusting in the Father above all, not in Edomite king, not in Roman. We don't want Babylon's power. We don't want anything to do with Babylon. We're looking for a different kingdom, one created by our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And before we could go there, we have to admit we're not ready. We're not ready to accept it. We're not ready. And that's why Messiah had to come humble. He had to come the way he came. He had to come as a poor carpenter from Nazareth. He had to come on a donkey. He had to be lowly. He's performing all of these miracles, right? He's raising the dead. He's bringing sight to the blind. He's casting out devils. He's causing people that were lame to walk. He's doing all of that to show who he is. But they did not receive it because he didn't come in the Benz. He didn't show up in the Bentley. He wasn't wearing silk with a crown. So he didn't show up the way they were looking for him because they weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for that. They were arrogant and they were worshiping other gods, and they were so blind they didn't even see their own condition. So he's trying to show them through the humility of Messiah. And those that were looking for the true Messiah, like the 12 apostles, or at least 11 of them, and then a couple of other people, they could see, oh, this is definitely him. Even without all the pomp, they could see it was him. But the majority of folks and the leadership could not see that because they were looking for bling, right? They were looking for bling, bling. And they didn't see no bling. So this must not be him. Because we looking for bling. He ain't no bling here. This dude dusty. This dude poor. He ain't got no money. All he had was a divine spirit of his father, right? The blessing of his father and perfect righteousness. That's all he could have. That wasn't enough for those looking for bling. And so when he comes into Jerusalem on that donkey, he is bringing the character of perfect righteousness that is a necessary prerequisite to be able to stand in the kingdom. And nobody recognized it because even his disciples were looking for him to overthrow the Romans because their belief had been tainted by the false religious system that had taken the place of what the Father gave Moses. And again, we always stress, of course, that the Messiah came to confirm the covenant. That is, to bring back what the intention of Moses' teachings were, so that the people can be prepared and letting them know you can't come into the kingdom unless you're born of the water and of the Spirit. You got to humble yourself. You got to lose everything. That's why Paul wrote later, we know that the kingdom shall not be established until there be a falling away. That's what he said. There'll be a falling away first, that the man of sin be revealed. Now, the man of sin, he has a private jet. The man of sin got all kind of tight robes. The man of sin can show up at the UN and tell them what to do, show up at the White House and tell the president what to do, and then show up in Yankee Stadium, fill it up, and tell all the people to bow, and they'll do it. Completely different messiahs we're looking at here. Completely different. So the true Messiah is going to change the character of his people so that when they get the new bodies, they already got characters to match those bodies. And they can stand now in the kingdom with angels and with all the redeemed and with all the prophets. And they can stand now in the kingdom, and there's no fear of this thing happening again. It would never happen again. Not because the Father will forcefully stop it, because if any man was to rise up, and it will not happen because nobody in the kingdom will have the character to do that. But if somebody was to rise up, somebody was to whisper and say, we should take this kingdom, we could run it ourselves, that person would immediately be put to death. It would never happen because everybody knows. All you got to do is look at the Messiah. Look at the marks on him, and you'll know the humility it cost to get us to stand there. That is why the 24 elders tossed the crowns at the feet. Nobody is going to want anything to do with what this world is now. We're not going to want to. And why? Because the Father humbled his own Son, and he humbled us with the Son so that we understand. We don't have any power of perfect righteousness. We don't, even though we're the seed of Abraham, we're not entitled to anything. Why do you think he allowed us to be brought in chains? He allowed the true people, bloodline Israel, to be brought in ships in chains, allowed us to be victims of chattel slavery, allowed us to be stamped on, allowed the Gentiles to build their kingdom on our backs and not pay us. That's the truth about it. Why? Because we have to know it's not us. It's not us. It's the Father. And that's why Moses said, it shall come to pass when all these things come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where the Yahweh, thy Most High, have scattered thee, and shalt return unto Yahweh, and shalt obey his voice. That's what all this is about. That's what the entrance in Jerusalem was all about. See, we now, you see, Our fathers are in Jerusalem, and they got the nerve. They got the unmitigated gall, as some would say. They got the nerve to tell Messiah, we be Abraham's seed and we're never in bondage to any man. How are you talking about we're going to be made free? They got the nerve to say that while Roman soldiers are patrolling their streets, while an Edomite is their king and a Roman procurator is their governor. They got the nerve to say, we were never in bondage to any man. See? Just like their fathers and our fathers started thinking, man, we've been in Egypt for almost 2 centuries now. We Egyptians, we got all the same rights and privileges. While the Egyptians are saying if it's a male, kill it. Throw it in the river to the alligators and the crocodiles if it's a male. Deceiving ourselves into thinking we was accepted by the Mizraim when we wasn't. That sound familiar? Just because some dudes can dunk a ball or run for a touchdown or run under 10 seconds in 100 meters or do all kinds of, or we can act like another person and get Oscars for that. Just because we could do all that and they will pay us to entertain them, that means now all of a sudden we leaders? That's the kingdom? See how deceived we are? Oh, all of a sudden now, we're Americans because we were born here. We're Americans because we were born here. Well, that's what the law said. But like Malcolm X said, if we were Americans, they wouldn't need no civil rights legislation. They don't need no civil rights legislation when people come from Poland to the United States or from Italy to the United States. They don't need no civil rights legislation. If we were Americans, nobody would be getting strung up from trees or shot unarmed by people supposed to protect us if we were Americans. Right? But we think we're accepted because we can sing and dance and act and get a lot of money for that. See how deceived we are? And you know what? If you count 46 million Hebrews, that's people that freely know and understand they are so-called black in the United States. That represents 46 million. That's not even talking about the so-called Latinos that know they are also Hebrew. We're not even talking about that because there's more, right? But we're just talking about people that understand and they will tell you, yes, I'm black. That's telling you we are the Hebrews, right? You take 46 million of us, which represents somewhere around 20 million households, right? Maybe 15 million households, okay? And if you take all the entertainers, your Denzel Washingtons, your Halle Berrys that have won Oscars, right? You take all of these entertainers that can sing, your LeBron James, your Michael Jordans. You take all of these boxers, you take Muhammad Ali and all of those guys that are great entertainers and gotten wealthy off entertainment. It's not even 1/100th of 1% of us. I'm not talking about a 10th. I'm not talking about it's 1/100th of 1% of us. And I think that's even too big of a number. Okay, I think that's even too big of a number. And we think we made it because of that small number of us that are in Babylon getting paid as entertainers. See how deceived we are? That is why the rest of us, the rest of us that are trying to bust our tail, working extra jobs, getting heart attacks because we're working so hard, getting debt because we're trying to get education that they tell us we should get, trying our best to make it and struggling. That's not even talking about those of us that have been boxed into these red line neighborhoods with crack and heroin and then just getting destroyed and then putting in profit-making jails. That's not even including that. The rest of us struggling. And a couple of house Negroes getting paid. And we think we all made it when the rest of us are really field Negroes. Slavery ain't changed. It's still the same. Only now. They took chains off most of us, and they put a chain on our mind of fake religion and white Jesus. And we think we got something. The Messiah is showing us what it takes to really come into the Father's kingdom and who we really are. See, who we really are. We are the chosen Hebrews, the royal seed of Abraham. That's right. The chains are now on the mind. They got us. You see, that's why Malcolm X thought that they were overthrowing European colonizers in Africa and getting their own country. What really happened is they can leave Ghana. They can go back to England from Ghana. Why? Because they got Ghana worshiping white Jesus and speaking English. They can leave the Ivory Coast. Why? Because they got Côte d'Ivoire. Why? It's French. You following France. They can leave that. They ain't worried about you because they got you right here. Like what Ike Turner used to say to Tina Turner, I got you right here. They got you. They can leave now because you are colonized. Oh, they can leave the land right there. You colonized. They know they got you. They can leave Mexico because every place you go in Mexico, they got a Jesuit priest statue in every city. They got you right here. Yes, right. We don't even know our own names. We speak English. And then people that call themselves, that say, oh, I'm not black, Poppy. Well, what language you speak? Spanish. Oh, that's a language of your original people. And identify yourselves as Spanish. Do you understand what that means? They can leave you. They can leave Dominican Republic and know that you under control. They got white Jesus. Some of y'all want to be white, and they got you calling yourself Spanish. Job done. Job done. They ain't got to worry about you no more. Job done. See? We don't even know who we are. But now, praise the Most High, we are awakening to who we are. That's right. The brainwashing is being destroyed because of the Spirit of the Father, because of His Word, right? Because of the truth. We are created to worship the Father. Israel was brought into existence, and it was known by the Father before it existed, before the foundation of the earth. And it is known before the foundation of the earth that the Father would have a descendants of Jacob from Isaac and Abraham, who would be called Israel or Yashar'al, and known that this time, right before the kingdom is about to be established, he would have a people that are created to worship him, that were predestined to be his people, and that who have humbled themselves before him, that our characters might be made into perfect righteousness and receive immortal bodies. We're being prepared for that, brethren. We're being prepared for that. And that's what the Messiah, that's what the meaning was of him coming into Jerusalem on a donkey. That's what the meaning was when it says he was despised and rejected. That's what the meaning was. He was causing us to understand what it would take for us to be ready for the kingdom. Forget the ruling ship of this earth. That's going to come. But we can't rule in righteousness. What did David say? Let's look at, I believe it's 2 Samuel. Uh-huh. 2 Samuel chapter 23. 2 Samuel chapter 23. This is David, who is a sign of Messiah. Okay, David. And in 2 Samuel 23, beginning at verse 1, And going from verse 1 down to verse 4, 2 Samuel 23, from verse 1 to verse 4. Now these be the last words of David. David, the son of Jesse, said, and the man who was raised up on high, the anointed of Yahweh of Jacob, the sweet psalmist of Israel, said, the spirit of Yahweh spake by me, and his word was in my tongue. The Most High of Israel said, the rock of Israel spake to me, he that ruleth over men must be just, ruling in the fear of the Most High. And he shall be as the light of the morning, as the sun riseth, even a morning without clouds, as the tender grass springeth out of the earth by clear shining after rain. He that ruleth among men must be just. Praise the Most High. And that's what we must understand first. Our king is going to be unlike any king that ever lived, especially in Babylon. No king in Babylon will ever be like Messiah. He that ruleth among men must be just, ruling in the fear of Yahweh. So our king is going to come and destroy this place and take it over. He's going to take this kingdom. The gates of hell shall not prevail against it. But when he does, he will be accompanied by all those sealed in perfect righteousness. And he will rule in that same perfect righteousness. Praise the Most High Yah. Praise his name. I wanted that to start off Matthew 21 because, as you can see, it's misunderstood. In Christianity, it's misunderstood. In Christianity, it's almost like it's promoting weakness, right? Am I right about that? I mean, when you see him meek and humble, it's almost like he's promoting weakness. Why? Because Christianity is a man-made religion, and so weakness don't go with that, and it looks weak. But when you understand the confirmation of the covenant with Israel, how he is now paying the penalty for Israel's breaking of the covenant. And he's preparing Israel to be a nation that could stand in the kingdom forever. And that we need to be humble to come back to our God. No, we're not Americans. You're not British. You might be called a citizen. You're not Jamaican. You're not Puerto Rican or Dominican or Haitian. You're an Israelite. And the kingdom is the Father Yah's. And he's going to take all these kingdoms. He's going to take all of them. Praise the Most High. But before that can happen, we must be prepared. We must be awakened as to who we are. How did we get here and why? See, this is where a lot of the so-called Black leaders, even people like a Malcolm X, like others, they will tell you, for example, that the so-called white man stole the land of America and that he killed the original inhabitants, the Indians. They will tell you that he took the land that was South Africa. The Dutch did. They will tell you that the Belgians snatched land in Africa and killed the people and then they enslaved people. They will tell you all of that, but they will not tell you why. Why? If Black people have more intelligent brain matter, they found that to be true. People from Africa have more brain matter of intelligence than any person on earth. More capacity for learning than any person on earth. That's a scientific fact. If that is true, why are we enslaved? If that is true, why we don't own nothing? Why? That's the question that nobody asks when you're talking about us being enslaved, raped, mistreated, maligned. We are the first fire, the last hire. We get the lowest salary. We get the more heart disease, the more diabetes, the more disease generally. We die at higher rates with lower life expectancies than anybody else on the planet. So the question is never answered. Why? If we were kings, why are we slaves now? Why? They'll say, well, we had kingdoms in Timbuktu and we had kingdoms in Egypt before the white man even knew what a book was. That's what Malcolm X said, but he never said why. I would always be asking, I'd be listening to him and say, why? Why did we, what permitted us, what caused us to be in this lowest state? Why? Look at the Messiah. Look at the Messiah. Because we sinned against the Father and we were arrogant and we thought we were greater. We thought we were gods. That's why. And he warned us, sent prophets to warn us. We wasn't hearing them though. We wasn't hearing them. Just like they didn't hear Messiah. They weren't hearing him. And so he had to humble us, make us lose everything, lose our land, lose our language, lose our identity, had people take our place that claim to be us and are not, had us, the Bible said, under people that are not even a people, had them take us over, put us in chains and treat us like dogs. That's why, because we were arrogant. And now we're being humbled to come back to our Father. And when we do, we'll be prepared to not be arrogant anymore, but to be rejoicing and to be in a kingdom that was going to, the Bible tells us, it's going to be forever, even forever and ever. Let us remember, brethren, how we got here. Not just that we are here. Most people are just waking up that we are here, right? I mean, you listen to certain hand-picked bootlicks that are politicians and entertainers, and they don't understand why all of us are complaining. We should all be rich and powerful. Isn't that what they tell you? We should all be. What's wrong? What's wrong with them? I don't know. Maybe they're just lazy. How come they can't make it? I made it. Morgan Freeman said, I made it. He told the homosexual man. He said, you made it. I made it. How come they can't make it? That's the arrogance, brethren, that caused us to be in this situation. We were worshiping other gods. That's why we were here. Why were we brought here in slave ships and treated like cattle? Because we worshiped other gods. We forgot the Father. Even though we were highly skilled, they said slaves can come off the ship and break horses and know how to raise thoroughbreds before the white man even knew what was going on. They let slaves do it. Because why? Because the Israelites knew everything about a horse. We knew how to handle that. We knew how to build ships. We knew how to do all of the trades that they learned later. In fact, all of the stuff the Greeks got, they stole from Africa. We all know that. That's an acknowledged fact. All their so-called philosophy, they took from the Egyptians. And then had the nerve to change the capital to Alexandria because they discovered it. But hey, why? Why did all that happen? Because we got arrogant. Because we lost our humility. Because we weren't thankful to the Creator. Because we thought we were the gods. And now we're brought low enough so that we should understand that. In fact, most of us have gotten our awakening experience from the Bible, from studying the curses that came on Israel. Because in the curses that came on Israel, we can see us. We can see us. Praise the Most High. That's why we should not be among those that are trying to say, well, the Gentiles, they're going to be our slaves in the kingdom. The Bible does say there's going to be some of the, not all, some that are going to be slaves. It also says there's going to be some that are kings. Okay? But we shouldn't be that way because that's an arrogance that caused us to be down in the first place. We should be serving the Yah and pointing all people to our God. Yah, if they ask us, we are servants of the Most High Yah. We're not servants of white Jesus, no Christianity, no Islam, none of the three Abrahamic religion. We are followers of the Most High. And because we left him and got arrogant is why we were humbled in the situation that we're in. And that's why the Messiah had to come to us as a humble servant to cause us to realize what it costs for our arrogance. That's right. We were servants in Egypt. And so when they study in the pyramids, they're studying our work. When they're studying the pyramids, they're studying our work. When they come to the White House to look at all of the buildings of Washington, D.C., we built that. We built that. the White House, Washington Monument, all those phallic symbols and stuff. We built that. We didn't get paid for it, but we built it. And they needed us to do what was called in the U.S. after the Civil War. There was a period of time, tell me if you've heard of this, called the Reconstruction. Do you remember that period in history? They called it the Reconstruction. I want you to acknowledge, or not acknowledge, but I want you to take note, put it that way. I can't tell you what to acknowledge, but to take note that there was no Jim Crow during Reconstruction. Jim Crow came right after Reconstruction. Why? Because they needed us to rebuild the joint after it was destroyed. So we helped, and we were the figureheads in rebuilding Atlanta and Richmond, Virginia, and North Carolina, and Florida, and New Orleans. We were the ones spearheading the rebuilding effort during the Reconstruction. Once it was all done, they didn't need us no more. Then came Jim Crow immediately. See, when they need you, they'll use you. Always happens. And to this day, they're always 100% of the time using us. Don't ever think they're going to give you something. They ain't. They're going to use you. Even if they appear to give you some, it's going to end up backfiring on us. Always does. Why? Because we're the Hebrews, man. This ain't our kingdom. We're the Hebrews. This ain't our kingdom. Our kingdom is about to appear very shortly and destroy all these kingdoms. Praise the Most High. But first, we had to be humbled, as the Messiah was, on our behalf. We also humble ourselves in the sight of Yahweh and bring ourselves and come back to him, and he will lift us up. Praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So